What's up, lore masters? Today we'll be breaking down the DS9 episode, The Magnificent Ferengi. Honestly, this story is really good and worthy of a complete breakdown, but for the purposes of this video, I'll be focusing on the implications when it comes to the Dominion War. The main focus will be on the capture of Ishka, Starfleet relinquishing the Vorta prisoner, the exchange, and the Ferengi double-cross. I'll be honest, the more I watch the episode, the more questions I do have, so let's just break it down. The first event that jumpstarts this entire arc is that of the capture of Ishka, mistress of the Grand Nagus and mother of Quark and Rom. A transport traveling between Vulcan and Ferenginar is apparently grabbed by a Dominion ship. This, in and of itself, is intriguing to me, as I'm not sure what they're gaining here. The Dominion has recently lost a major battle and had to retreat from Earth's doorstep back to behind the Cardassian lines. You would think that they might have other things they needed to be focusing on. One might argue that they are perhaps utilizing destabilizing tactics, hitting transports and other civilian targets in order to strike fear and cause unrest in the Federation. That's fair enough, but why would they keep the mistress of the Grand Nagus? The Ferengi Alliance hasn't joined Starfleet, not yet at least. They haven't picked a side, so why would you antagonize a neutral government? While the Ferengi aren't looked on approvingly by many people, they certainly have powerful technology, if TNG is to be believed, and we know that some Ferengi can be quite ingenious. You could argue that this is a power play by the Dominion to force Ferenginar to get things from Starfleet that the Dominion might not be able to, which is fair enough, I mean the ploy works, but it's definitely bad optics for the Alpha and Beta Quadrant and doesn't appear to net very much. Once they realize the value of Ishka, I'd assume they would just return her. That said, this could be subtle foreshadowing that the cracks are beginning to form within the Dominion machine. They're starting to become somewhat desperate and making mistakes. Just a thought. Then there's the fact that Starfleet releases the Vorta to Quark. I'm not going to belabor the fact that it's Quark that's acting as the agent. It seems like the governmental structure of the Ferengi Alliance is that there may not be a set hierarchy, but the Nagus just chooses who he wants. What I will question is, why did Starfleet agree to all of this? I understand that the dialogue indicates this is Kira paying Quark back for helping out during the Resistance. After all, he did play a vital role in disabling Deep Space Nine, but this seems far outside of Starfleet's character. First, they know the Vorta will be killed if he returns to the Dominion. This goes against what Starfleet believes, and we have seen in DS9, TNG, and the original series where Starfleet is unwilling to return someone if they know that person is going to get killed. But to be fair, Insane Way delighted on people's pain and death, so I can't really include Voyager, so I guess it comes down to which canon you want to believe. Secondly, the Vorta is a vital intelligence asset. Even if they've gotten all of the information they can about what he knows when it comes to troop deployments and such, they can investigate how he thinks, how he breaks things down, and how he is controlled by the changelings. So this seems like the loss of an asset unnecessarily. And third, while he probably won't have a ton of information, the Vorta does know a little bit about Starfleet intelligence now. Faces, interrogation techniques, and what little he's been able to glean about the facilities he's been in. At the end of the day, this just seems like a bad idea. However, it is possible they could see the potential for the operation as well. By giving up the Vorta, Starfleet is currying favor with the Ferengi Alliance. While the Ferengi are filthy capitalists, they have quite a few powerful ships, and money does go a long way in this universe. So again, I'd have to say that the only way for them to justify this to themselves at night is because they need the Nagus's quote-unquote favor. Interesting how a people who don't rely on an economy will eventually really need someone who does. Now, for the most part, I don't really mind the team, but I will address one issue that I have with it. The concern is the use of Nog, if I'm being honest, and it's not because it's Nog himself, but because he keeps wearing that fracking Starfleet uniform. This becomes an issue for me when the actual deal goes down. Think about it. So the Dominion shows up. They see the Ferengi they are making a deal with, but also see that there's a Federation officer with them. What the ever-living hell. In theory, this should just inspire the Dominion to overtake the Ferengi's position. Sure, the Vorta most likely will die, but if they have a Federation officer now, even if he's a lower level officer, they still have someone of value, someone who might have information. Additionally, they can determine if there's an unknown alliance between Starfleet and the Ferengi Alliance, which this infers. And when talking about this entire ordeal, why don't the Jem'Hadar just shroud and infiltrate? They can just take them all by surprise after being literally invisible. There's a risk there, yeah, but still, I think the Jem'Hadar can take the Ferengi. I mean, I don't know. Perhaps I'm underestimating the value of the Vorta here and they just don't want to risk it, but anyway, let's get back to the negotiations. Quark tells his Dominion counterpart to have a majority of the Jem'Hadar who are on the station. Oh yeah, it's Impact Nor, not Deep Space Nine. Pretty long story, just watch the episode. Anyway, he tells the Jem'Hadar to go back to their ship and leave the area at Warp 9. Warp 9. That's quite a trick when we've never seen a Dominion ship travel at Warp 9 and have had instances when Dominion assets traveling at Warp 9 would have helped them in the plot. I'm going to infer that Quark just meant best possible speed and likely doesn't know how fast Dominion ships go. And there'd be no reason for the Vorta to correct him and give him accurate information, so we'll just ignore it for now. After everything is said and done, the prisoner exchange would occur. The mistress of the Nagus for a dead Vorta operative. Long story, and well, we're not really going to get into it. It's outside of the scope of this video. The prisoner exchange is ultimately a double cross, and the Ferengi kill the Dominion guards and take the Vorta prisoner. Well, the other Vorta prisoner, not the dead Vorta. They would ultimately decide to return him to Starfleet. And of course, when the Dominion returned to the station, they would find 2 dead Jem'Hadar and a zombified Vorta that looks like a sin of the gods. Again, this is just bad optics for the Ferengi and Starfleet. It would also sour future negotiations between the Ferengi and the Dominion. Perhaps these events could start the process from what we see when the Ferengi join the Federation alliance. At the end of the day, it is a fun episode, but there are some questionable acts and things that would impact political affairs when it comes to the Alpha and Beta Quadrant, at least in my opinion. However, a lot of people like to ask how I would have changed this if given the opportunity, and I don't know that I would. I would remove Nog's uniform, but beyond that, I think it was overall well done. And while I've been pretty critical of the lore here, this episode is definitely one worth watching. But all of these are my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next Lore Reloaded.